When Oliver Reed challenged Royal Navy sailors to a drinking contest during the filming of Gladiator in 1999, he had no idea it would kill him within hours. His final bar tab of $435 became his epitaph. 8 pints of beer, 12 shots of rum, and half a bottle of whiskey consumed in a deadly game that claimed one of Hollywood's most notorious drinkers. Reed's story is just one of 10 Hollywood legends whose battles with alcohol became as legendary as their performances on screen. From Golden Age icons who drank themselves to death to modern stars who found redemption, these stories reveal the dark side of Tinseltown's glamorous facade. Hollywood has always had a complicated relationship with alcohol. During the Golden Age of cinema, from the 1920s through the 1950s, the studio system gave contract players free rein to do basically whatever they wanted, as long as it could be quietly swept under the rug by studio fixers like Eddie Mannix and Howard Strickling. The culture of celebrations, late nights, long shoots, and constant pressure to stay on created an environment where drinking wasn't just accepted, it was practically expected. But for some stars, what started as social drinking spiraled into something far darker. These 10 cases represent some of the most extreme examples of how alcohol addiction ravaged Hollywood's brightest talents, sometimes literally to death. Oliver Reed's death perfectly captures the tragic extremes of Hollywood alcoholism. The British actor literally died during a drinking contest, and his final bar tab tells the entire story. During a break from filming Gladiator in Malta, Reed encountered a group of Royal Navy sailors on shore leave. What happened next was both predictable and horrifying for anyone who knew Reed's reputation. He challenged them to a drinking match that would become his last. Over the course of just a few hours, Reed consumed 8 pints of beer, 12 shots of rum, and half a bottle of whiskey, racking up a $435 tab that became his epitaph. Reed collapsed during the contest and died of a heart attack in the ambulance en route to the hospital. He was 61 years old, but his body had been ravaged by decades of extreme drinking. The British Film Institute noted that his alcoholism had been affecting his career since the mid-1970s, leading to embarrassing incidents on set. One of the most notorious occurred during the filming of Cutthroat Island in 1995. Reed arrived extremely intoxicated, got into a bar fight, and then attempted to expose himself to lead actress Gina Davis. He was fired and replaced on the spot. His death during Gladiator cost the production company $3 million to digitally recreate his face so he could appear in scenes he still had left to shoot. The irony wasn't lost on Hollywood that Reed received a posthumous BAFTA nomination for Best Supporting Actor for playing the gruff Gladiator trainer. Perhaps his finest performance came when he was literally dying from his addiction. Richard Burton's relationship with alcohol was as epic and destructive as his legendary romance with Elizabeth Taylor. By 1974, during his first serious attempt to get sober, Burton was consuming 3 bottles of vodka daily. To put that in perspective, that's roughly 40 standard drinks every single day. Burton claimed he started drinking at age 12, and his consumption only escalated as his fame grew. During the filming of The Klansman, he was so intoxicated that he could barely stand, requiring many of his shots to be filmed while he was sitting or lying down. His off-screen behavior was equally outrageous. He once downed 21 shots of tequila before diving into the sea when he heard of a reported shark sighting. The physical toll was catastrophic. By the early 1980s, his kidneys had grown to abnormal proportions. When doctors operated on him, they discovered his spine was covered with crystallized alcohol. His body had literally been pickled from the inside out. Medical professionals warned him repeatedly that his drinking would kill him. And in 1984, like his father before him, Burton died of a cerebral hemorrhage at age 58. One infamous story from the set of The Spy Who Came In From the Cold perfectly captures Burton's relationship with alcohol. A scene requiring his character to down a glass of whiskey took 47 takes, with crew members suspecting he was deliberately fluffing his lines to keep drinking. Burton himself once admitted, "I'm just not civilized without a drink. I can knock off 3 or 4 bottles of vodka or whiskey." Errol Flynn embodied the swashbuckling hero on screen, but his real-life adventures were fueled by an ocean of alcohol that ultimately destroyed him. Flynn turned drinking into an art form. He would inject vodka into oranges and munch on them throughout filming to maintain his buzz while appearing to eat healthy snacks. Flynn's drinking was legendary even by Hollywood standards. He co-rented a Malibu party house with David Niven that they nicknamed Cirrhosis by the Sea. Every Sunday, hordes of women would attend his open houses where drinks and drugs flowed freely. Flynn had installed 2-way mirrors over a guest bedroom and bathroom to spy on his guests, a detail that reveals the depths of his decadence. When Flynn died of a heart attack in 1959 at age 50, doctors examining his body were shocked. The 50-year-old actor's internal organs resembled those of a 75-year-old man, ravaged by decades of alcohol abuse and showing advanced signs of cirrhosis. In a final gesture that perfectly captured his priorities, Flynn was buried with 6 bottles of whiskey. The Tasmania-born actor was addicted to what he called the 4-letter words: alcohol, tobacco, drugs, and sex. His yacht parties were legendary, and he once threw a house party on a barge that literally sank from the weight of too many revelers. Even his wedding reception was a pub crawl rather than a traditional celebration. Judy Garland's tragic story exemplifies how the Golden Age studio system actively enabled addiction. MGM studio executives regularly gave the young Wizard of Oz star amphetamines to keep her thin and energetic, then barbiturates to help her sleep. This pharmaceutical cocktail, combined with alcohol, created a destructive cycle that would define her short life. When Garland died at 47 from an accidental overdose, she weighed just 90 pounds. Her body destroyed by decades of studio-sanctioned substance abuse. No story better illustrates how Hollywood's culture of excess can destroy innocence than Drew Barrymore's childhood battle with addiction. By age 9, the ET star was already drinking and smoking regularly. By 11, she was drinking heavily. By 12, she was dependent on drugs and had been blacklisted by Hollywood producers. Barrymore's family history made her addiction almost inevitable. Her father was a heavy drinker, as was his father before him, the legendary actor John Barrymore, who died from complications related to alcohol use disorder. Her aunt died from a drug overdose. Coming from this lineage of addiction, combined with the pressures of child stardom, created a perfect storm. The most heartbreaking detail is how casually adults introduced her to substances. "I used to get high with my mom's friend at like 10, Barrymore later recalled, and I thought she was so cool, and she would give weed to me and her son. What should have been protective adult relationships became pathways to addiction. At 13, her mother forcibly sent her to rehabilitation, where she spent 18 months being treated for alcohol and substance abuse. The treatment was so intense that Barrymore legally emancipated herself from her parents at age 14, essentially divorcing her family to save her life. Years later, Barrymore reflected on her experience with characteristic honesty. "It really is a recipe for disaster. But you know what's exciting? I got my shit over with at like 14. Like, midlife crisis, institutionalized, blacklisted, no family, like, got it done." Robert Downey Jr.'s story represents both the depths of Hollywood addiction and the heights of recovery success. His journey began early. His filmmaker father, Robert Downey Sr., introduced him to marijuana at age 6, believing drugs would facilitate an emotional bond between them. This led to Downey becoming a daily drinker by his teens. Despite earning an Academy Award nomination for Chaplin in 1992, Downey's career derailed spectacularly in 1996. Within just a few weeks, he was arrested multiple times for bizarre, drug-fueled behavior. One incident involved police stopping him for speeding and finding him intoxicated with heroin and cocaine in his possession, plus an unloaded .356 Magnum in his passenger seat. Most disturbing was when an intoxicated Downey wandered into a neighbor's house and passed out in their son's bedroom. The homeowners found a strange man unconscious in their child's bed, a moment that perfectly captured how addiction had stripped away his judgment and humanity. Downey cycled in and out of jail repeatedly, becoming a tabloid fixture and industry cautionary tale. His transformation began in 2003 when he met film producer Susan Downey while working on Gothica. She gave him an ultimatum: get clean or lose her. The story goes that Downey had a moment of clarity outside a Burger King and threw his remaining drugs into the ocean. Their marriage in 2005 marked the beginning of his remarkable comeback. By 2008, he was starring as Tony Stark in Iron Man, launching the Marvel Cinematic Universe and cementing one of Hollywood's greatest redemption stories. His recent Academy Award win for Oppenheimer proves that recovery isn't just about getting clean, it's about reclaiming your potential. Ben Affleck's struggle with alcoholism has played out in the public eye, making him one of the most visible examples of how addiction affects modern Hollywood. His battle began early, watching his own father, Timothy, struggle with the disease, a family cycle that would repeat itself. Affleck first entered rehab in 2001 and stayed sober for a couple of years. For about 8 years, he maintained what he called a regular relationship with alcohol. But during his marriage troubles with Jennifer Garner, his drinking escalated dramatically. "I started drinking every day," Affleck revealed. "I'd come home from work and I'd start to drink and I'd just sit there and drink until I passed out on the couch." This daily pattern of self-medication became a prison that controlled his life. In 2017, Affleck publicly announced he had completed treatment to be the best father I can be. After achieving a year of sobriety, he relapsed in 2018, leading to another rehab stint. "Relapse is embarrassing, obviously," he told the New York Times. "I really wish it didn't happen. I wish it wasn't on the internet for my kids to see." The 2020 film The Way Back became deeply personal for Affleck, as he portrayed a former basketball star fighting alcoholism. The role allowed him to channel his own experiences into his performance, creating what many considered one of his finest acting achievements. Today, Affleck has been sober for 5 years, acknowledging that being an alcoholic is something he deals with daily but doesn't have to define his entire identity. Peter O'Toole represented the seemingly fun-loving side of Hollywood alcoholism, until you looked closer at the destruction. The Lawrence of Arabia star was known for his charm and wit, but his drinking led to countless bizarre incidents that revealed the chaos beneath the surface. One famous story involves O'Toole showing up drunk to the wrong funeral while trying to attend his friend's memorial service. He was known for starting to drink, blacking out, and waking up in strange places, sometimes in different countries, sometimes in strangers' apartments with fellow actors like Michael Caine. As a young man, O'Toole lived on a barge that sank during one of his parties because too many people were aboard. Instead of a traditional wedding reception, he and his wife Sheehan had a pub crawl. When she was giving birth to their first child, a drunken O'Toole showed up with a chorus of intoxicated actors and proceeded to serenade the entire hospital. Despite the seemingly harmless nature of these stories, O'Toole's consumption was serious. He reportedly drank a bottle of whiskey daily. The cumulative effect of decades of this moderate intake slowly destroyed one of Britain's finest actors, though he managed to maintain his career longer than many of his contemporaries. Spencer Tracy's alcoholism reveals how the old studio system both enabled and tried to control addiction. Tracy was regularly involved in bar fights, and his drinking became so problematic that Fox Studios gave him an ultimatum: quit drinking or be fired. Tracy chose to be fired rather than address his addiction, a decision that could have ended his career. Fortunately, MGM picked him up, and he went on to become one of Hollywood's most respected actors, despite his ongoing struggle with alcohol. His case illustrates how the studio system protected valuable assets while simultaneously enabling their destructive behaviors. Elizabeth Taylor spent over 3 decades addicted to alcohol and prescription painkillers, often spending entire days on set too drunk to read her lines. Her significance lies not just in her struggle, but in how she broke Hollywood's code of silence about addiction. In 1983, Taylor became the first celebrity to publicly admit herself to the Betty Ford Center. This groundbreaking decision helped destigmatize addiction treatment and pave the way for future stars to seek help openly. After completing the program, emerging 45 pounds lighter, Taylor declared, "Not being drunk is the only way I'm going to stay alive." Anthony Hopkins represents the ultimate success story of Hollywood addiction recovery. On December 29, 1975, Hopkins was driving in a blackout when he realized he could have killed someone. That moment of clarity led him to Alcoholics Anonymous, where a woman's simple advice, "Why don't you just trust in God?" changed his life forever. In December 2025, Hopkins celebrated 50 years of sobriety with a message of hope. Choose life instead of the opposite. Life, 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 and more life. At 87, he continues working actively, proving that recovery isn't just about surviving addiction, it's about thriving despite it.